Right, YouTube, it's Channel KingNazaru's, and I'm here to talk about the new DC slate of movies that are coming out in live action. Now, some of this news is going to be from, well, a few months back, but I was too busy to cover it. But now that they have their new regime and they just made their new announcement, I felt now's a good time to bring them back. So last time I basically talked about DC was when after I reviewed Black Adam back in October, which I said that despite critics giving it mixed reviews, I found it, excuse me, some pop up. So anyway, I said that I rather enjoyed the movie. Um, and I thought it wasn't like the most uh, thought provoking movie, but it was pretty entertaining. Some critics thought it was like a pretty mixed movie. It was kind of different, but it did a lot of well with fans. Unfortunately, it didn't perform as well at the box office, with only gaining about like $400 million worldwide, and would have needed about 500 million, considering it had a $250 million budget plus marketing. So it'd be about 500 million just to break even and start turning a profit. So while this is like the most uh, pro- most amount of money a solo rock film ever made, it still lost money for Warner Brothers and DC. And shortly after that, we got the announcement that James Gunn and Peter Safran would be the helms over the DC movie brands, and they've created DC Studio. Now, a lot of people thought this is going to be a good thing. They they're going to help the DC be more consistent. Feel like there's going to be an actual storyline. There's going to be some stakes, and on top of that, we got Henry Cavill back. So there are a lot of things to build up for. They're hoping that they could uh, at least, if not get Zack Snyder back, then at the very least, uh, continue off of his ideas that he was bringing in with the Snyder cut, like having Darkseid fight the Justice League, and we'll have the Rock and Superman fight, maybe even Black Adam. I mean, not the Rock, Black Adam, and maybe we'll have Black Adam team up with the Justice League against Darkseid and things like that. Uh, Unfortunately, it was that not too long after that, it was announced that Henry Cavill was no longer going to be playing Superman, and that James Gunn and Peter Safran were going to be rebooting the DC universe. And this was met with mixed to negative reaction. Um, the people who always hated the DCU were happy about this because it feels like they're gonna get a fresh start. They feel like they'll get the characters that they actually want, and they'll finally uh, have some theoretically better storytelling. On the uh, on the other hand, uh, fan people who were fans of the DCEU, both the Zack Snyder fans and the post Zack Snyder fans, like things like Walter Amada era or whatever, uh, were upset because the DCU was cut short without accomplishing anything with a satisfying conclusion. Granted, we formed the Justice League, that and beyond that, we didn't really accomplish much outside of that phase. Uh, Honestly, I feel like this would have been a lot better received if the reboot had came after we accomplished the whole Dark Side arc. And now, it just led to such a backlash that we even got a hashtag Fire James Gunn going on Twitter, and hashtag Fire James Gunn Saffron. So, and it also doesn't really help that James Gunn's kind of going on Twitter and being passive aggressive about the whole situation. But he seems to be sticking to his guns on his decision. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, where do I stand on this? Honestly, I'm of mixed minds. I mean, on the one hand, I was a fan of the DCU, not of everything. I didn't like things like Birds of Prey or shoot, what was another thing I did? I can't remember another DC movie that I didn't like. Um, but I was fans of things like Man of Steel. Uh, I was indifferent towards Batman v Superman. I I've come to not like the Joss Whedon version of Justice League, despite me initially liking it, because I felt some things didn't age well, and looking back, but I definitely love the Zack Snyder version of Justice League. Loved Wonder Woman. Oh yeah, I did not like Wonder Woman 1984. I thought Aquaman was pretty fun, and Shazam was definitely a good movie. Um, so I definitely was invested in this, and I felt this was a good alternative after I had renounced my renounced being a Marvel fan after the whole after how Marvel comics are being poorly written and pushing things that I don't believe I don't want I don't believe and I don't want, and the MCU followed after, as especially with Phase 4, and showing how much they don't respect the fans. But now that now that this is happening, I'm not going to get a satisfactory resolution with the DCEU. On the other hand, um, where this is a fresh start, and depending on how James Gunn handles these characters, it will be it might unite some of the DC fans back together, though not completely. But let's look at some of these things. So he starts talking about how he's going to have all of these projects connected together, uh, live action movies, animated movies, video games, which is interesting. So at least it'll seem to have a consistent tone if it's taking place in the same universe and having the same actors. Now the question is that uh, can these actors act both in live action and in voice acting? Because there are some actors who can't, I mean, who are good voice actors but are terrible live action actors, and vice versa. Um, but yeah, apparently his first project is going to be called is the first phase is going to be called Gods and Monsters, and the first movie apparently in that is this animated film called Monster Commando, which is going to feature a lot of monster themed characters. I'm not all too familiar with them, but it seems to have a vampire, a rendition of the Frankenstein monster, uh, but things like that. And that's going to be the first introduction. Um, but yeah, how this is going to be transitioned, I forgot to mention how it's going to be transitioned is naturally through the Flash movie. Yes, unfortunately, that's still happening, despite the fact that Ezra Miller has acted like a complete lunatic and has been uh, found guilty of theft and assault, but apparently, due to his high celebrity status, he managed to get off with uh, probation. Basically, it's basically a slap on the wrist. Yeah, spinning in the face of justice. And it seems like, um, based on what based on so far, that James Gunn might be keeping Ezra Miller around, which would be a huge mistake if he's actually considering doing that. Um, and considering how popular the backlash is, I'm not sure that's going to do all too well for the Flash movie. Uh, but what's coming next is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, um, then the Flash movie, and then Aquaman 2. And I believe that's the order. And honestly, I'm a little concerned about that, considering that, well, the Ezra Miller controversy and the announcement that the DC movies are getting rebooted. That's gonna impact people's interest to see, because if this isn't gonna be leading up to anything of significance, of any satisfactory conclusion, then what's the point of seeing these movies? Uh, and I've also, yeah, there's also going to be different shows or movies within the DC, with James Gunn's new DC film. One, I believe, involves a project around Amanda Waller, who's still going to be played by Viola Davis. So it feels like like James Gunn is, despite what he said on Twitter, he is cherry picking characters that he's going to save from the Flashpoint reboot. So if Viola Davis is still going to be playing Amanda Waller, and this is more or less going to be the exact same Amanda Waller, and he'll probably save Peacemaker along with other characters he put in his movie, then that's not only showing some bias, but it's also kind of a terrible move. And because if that's the case, then why not save Henry Cavill's Superman? Because Henry Cavill definitely uh, was open to playing Superman probably for like another decade or two, as long as they were being respectful to the source material and creating a more comic book accurate Superman, and who's more hopeful and not depressing. He, but from word is that James Gunn didn't want to work with Henry Cavill because he's hard to work with, which is the same thing that the Witcher people said, that he was hard to work with, which was just translation that he wanted the Witcher to be more respectful to the source material and actually be the Witcher, instead of just the writers doing whatever they want for their own agenda. And which is why he left to go be Superman in DC, and only to get spat on and be let go. Fortunately for Henry Cavill, is that he's going to start his own project of a live action adaptation of Warhammer 40K. I've only heard the name of that series. I'm not too familiar with what it's about and its lore. But I congrat I support Henry Cavill doing a passion project, and one that he's going to have control to make sure that it's actually accurate to the source material, that fans will get what they want. Uh, but bottom line, I am not a fan of James Gunn cherry picking, because there's definitely some bias towards it, and he's not making the best decisions in that regard. The next is going to be uh, a Superman movie that's going to take place in his early years. Even not, it's not going to be a full on origin story like how he came to Earth, discovering his powers, but it is going to cover things like him meeting Lois for the first time. So this definitely feels like a Superman. This still feels like a Superman Year One, and could still arguably be an origin movie. Uh, I mean, that might have also played into why James Gunn didn't want to use Henry Cavill because he wanted a younger Superman. But I think it's also because I feel like he wants a more of a yes man who will agree to his script and decisions and not be burned by the source material. Because that's what James Gunn told John Cena, who plays Peacemaker. John Cena was originally willing to do his research on Peacemaker to properly portray the character, but then James Gunn told him not to do that. Okay, because we're going in a different direction. He just said, yeah, fine, whatever. We'll just go with the script, and that goes against how Peacemaker was portrayed, where he's more of a serious character. Where in the show, while he's enjoyable, he's more of a muscle bound oaf. Ah, but we'll just have to wait and see on this whole Superman thing. And the big question is, what villain is he going to face? Um, I know a lot of people are tired of seeing him against Lex Luthor, and myself included. I'm kind of tired of seeing him fight Lex Luthor. I don't want to. I could go a movie or two without him fighting Lex Luthor. Uh, but considering this will be early Superman, uh, this could probably you could probably have some of his lower tier villains, maybe like Parasite. I was going to say Livewire, but I feel like we should wait. You should probably wait for Superman to have some kind of reputation before doing Livewire, because her gimmick was that she started off as someone who was talking very antagonistic about Superman and feel like he didn't have the best. He wasn't all he was cracked out to be, and didn't have the best interests of the people at heart. Kind of like the acting like the J. Jonah Jameson to Superman Spider Man. Uh, so if this is just a Superman starting fresh, uh, then it wouldn't really work with Livewire. So I guess maybe Parasite could probably work. Maybe Metallo. And if we do have to add Lex Luthor, maybe he could be the puppeteer, a Machiavellian character. Uh, and maybe in another sequel we could have like Brainiac, because the only Superman villains we've had were uh, Lex Luthor, Zod, and you can also count Doomsday if you count the Batman v Superman. And technically, Darkseid, yeah, even though he was introduced in the Justice League movie and not a full-on Superman movie, but it would be nice if we branched out because Superman does have a pretty solid rogues gallery. Another project was a Themyscira uh, Fallen Paradise or whatever. It's going to be about uh, basically Themyscira. It's going to be a prequel, and it's going to have a lot of uh, infighting and political intrigue. Think Wonder Woman meets A Song of Ice and Fire slash Game of Thrones kind of bit. So considering this is going to lead, I mean, this is taking place before Wonder Woman was either born or created, depending on if they either, depending on if they decide to go with she's either the uh, demigod daughter of Zeus or was she created by the Olympians. through clay and magic. Um, that could have potential, but it's gonna have to lead to like the birth of Wonder Woman. Maybe like the birth of Wonder Woman. It creates some peace. Maybe we can't. This baby shouldn't be involved in all this war. We have to stop. Or whatever. Another. Uh, Another movie or project or is going to involve the Wildstorm characters. Yeah, DC owns Wildstorm. I believe the group is called the Authority. Yeah, the Authority. It's basically they think that society is broken and corrupt. They're trying to take the law into their own hands to fix it their own way. With such characters like Midnighter, I think that's all. He's one of the group. Uh, I don't know any other characters from the Authority and Wildstorm because I've never really read those comics. I've only heard about them from other comic book readers. There's a chance those that might could work with especially with people being exposed to the boys with these dark and edgy superheroes. Plus, Midnighter is apparently a homosexual, so people who were accepting of that might approve, assuming they even bother to get off Twitter and actually buy the tickets to go see that movie. Uh, honestly, I, honestly, yeah, that's a take it or leave it sort of thing for me. Uh, the next movie that's going to be of note is the Batman Brave and the Bold, which is going to it's not going to be about the Silver Age run of Batman's stories. At least I don't think it is, but is going to be about Batman and his clone slash biological son Damian Wayne. Yeah, for this, what you don't know, um, Damian Wayne was is the son of Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. I forgot it was either in clone. I think it was either a cloning or in artificial insemination that he came out to be, or maybe it was just full on pregnancy and she just didn't tell him. Sometimes they switch it up, and it's going to be about them. But so this is obviously going to be yet again a Batman that's been around the block. Probably not. It's not as old as Ben Affleck's Batman, but he's definitely a veteran and with established history and experience. So, and if considering this is the Damian Wayne Robin, that means we would have assumedly established Nightwing, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, and Tim Drake's Red Robin. We might even have Batgirl and Stephanie Brown as spoiler. So depending on the setup and depending on how the setup and how well it's executed, this could be a good way to bring in the Bat family. Or it could, or worst case scenario, it could be convoluted like Raimi Man 3, where you're just having too many characters all at the same time. Uh, but I'm sure a lot of fans would be excited to see the Bat family because we haven't seen anything remotely hinting to the Bat family since, well, Joel Schumacher's Batman films with Batman Forever and Batman Robin, which weren't well received. Though personally, I think Batman Forever is more of a guilty pleasure. Uh, I mean, no, Christopher Nolan had this one character that was basically Robin, but in name only. He didn't really want to do Robin. Uh, and then we had the Batman v Superman, which had a Robin that was dead, and you figured that'd be Jason Todd, but um, word was is that it was actually Dick Grayson's Robin. So yeah, that was not a good move. Uh, so I'm saying this movie could have potential, but this could easily backfire. And what was it? Oh yeah, there was also going to be a swamp movie iteration, be a swamp thing iteration, and it's going to more horror esque take of the side of the DC. I'm sure a lot of fans who were into uh, the short-lived Swamp Thing show would be happy to see that. Uh, but overall, I'm pretty much like in a mixed bag. I mean, it's really upsetting to see the original DC run of movies that was creating a cinematic universe, not get a proper satisfying resolution to things it teased, even though at times it seemed directionless. And on the other hand, there's a new potential for a more consistent story. Uh, it's going to have storytelling uh, and have a chance to win the audience back. And as for things like Matt Reeves' Batman, and any movies that come after that, and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker 2, those are those are going to be apparently labeled under the DC Elseworld label. So they will know that this is a DC product, but it's not part of the main DC universe. That actually does help. I honestly don't know why Walter Hamada and whoever else was in charge of DC didn't consider doing that uh, to separate what's a part of the DC cinematic universe and what is just its own separate DC project. So I gotta give props to James Gunn for thinking of that. All in all, my reception of this is lukewarm. And at first, when with the can canning of Henry Cavill and just scrapping the whole DC cinematic universe altogether, I was admittedly upset and was even considering renouncing DC. But now that I've had a chance to calm down, I feel like I can at least maybe give this a chance. See if they can form form some solid good movies, be respectful to the source material, and don't insult the fans. Don't then maybe I can give this a chance. I mean, because if not, then I'm just gonna have to go back to my original plan of giving up on both Marvel and DC and just waiting for them to crash and burn. But those are all my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll catch you mortals later.